Here is the script rewritten in approximately 1,950 words. Nobody saw this coming. Christina Applegate spent decades being one of the most beloved faces on television. She made people laugh, made them cheer, and looked like someone who had everything figured out. But behind every smile, every joke, every perfectly delivered punchline, there was a story she was not telling anyone. And now that story has finally come out, darker than anyone was prepared for. This is not tabloid gossip. These are things Christina herself has confirmed. Things she kept buried for 30 years. A stalker who broke into her home and put on her clothes. A violent relationship at 19 that ended with a shard of glass pressed against her neck. A night she cannot remember, with a famous TV producer, that left marks on her body she could never explain. And a disease that has now taken almost everything from her. By the time this story is finished, you will understand why she called her own life a nightmare she kept hoping to wake up from. Let's go back to the beginning, because that is where the darkness starts. Christina Applegate was born on November 25, 1971, in Hollywood, California. Her father worked as a producer. Her mother, Nancy Lee Pretty, was a folk singer and actress. Even her name carries something heavy. Her mother named her after a famous painting called Christina's World and used that same title for one of her own songs, as if her daughter's identity was already being folded into her mother's career before she could speak. Her parents separated within months of her birth. Because money was tight and there was no safety net, Christina was brought into her mother's working world immediately. At just 3 months old, she appeared in a baby bottle commercial. By kindergarten, she already had a Screen Actors Guild card. She had spent years working before she was old enough to read the contract she was signing. That kind of childhood teaches you something specific. It teaches you that adults will decide who you are, what you look like, and what role you are supposed to play. But the most devastating part of her early childhood had nothing to do with the camera. Between the ages of 3 and 7, Christina experienced things no child should ever carry. At age 5, she was molested by a female babysitter. She also watched her mother inject heroin. At home, there was a live-in boyfriend who physically abused both her mother and her. Christina has spoken about those years with brutal honesty. She said she knew what was happening was wrong even as a small child. The incident with the babysitter never left her. She has written that after it happened, she never fully felt comfortable being touched, and that discomfort followed her for the rest of her life. One small memory she once shared says more than any long explanation could. As a little girl, she was genuinely thrilled on nights when dinner included hamburger buns, because that meant there was enough food for bread to be on the table. That one detail tells you everything about the world she grew up in. And yet Christina never painted her mother as a villain. She loved Nancy deeply and once described her with tenderness, saying her mother was wonderful, but that her tools were simply off. Her mother used to say she never met a junkie she didn't like. Christina later admitted that line became part of her own pattern. She was always drawn to broken people, broken men especially, men she thought she could fix. Long before she understood it, love and chaos had already become the same thing in her mind. By her teenage years, she was already a working professional with credits on her resume. She had appeared in a horror film, acted alongside Scott Baio, and landed a regular series role at 15. Then came the moment that would define the next decade of her life. In 1987, Fox cast Christina Applegate as Kelly Bundy on Married with Children. She was 15 when she got the part and 25 when it finally ended after 11 seasons and 259 episodes. Kelly Bundy became one of the most recognizable characters on television. But behind that recognition was something nobody talked about publicly. She was a teenager being dressed in extremely revealing costumes in front of millions of viewers every week. The pressure to maintain a very specific physical image pushed her into a deeply dangerous place she has spoken about openly since. By the final season, she had completely hit a wall. She shaved her own head. The producers had to put her in a wig for the entire last year of filming. It was the only way she could take back even one small piece of herself from a role that had consumed her entire young adulthood. During the 5th season, when Christina was just 19, she became involved with a man she has chosen not to name publicly. The relationship was abusive from the very beginning. She became pregnant and had an abortion at 6 weeks. The violence stayed with her in vivid, specific flashes she has never been able to forget. One Christmas, at her grandmother's house, he punched a mirror hard enough to shatter it. Then he picked up a piece of broken glass, held it to her neck, and forced her to undress. She later wrote that he wanted her to believe he was capable of killing her, and that the fear itself seemed to be what satisfied him. Another night, he threw a cigarette lighter at her and forced an entire bottle of tequila down her throat. After that night, she finally left. What makes this even more haunting is who actually helped her. It was not family or old friends. It was her television family. The cast of Married with Children knew what was happening. Ed O'Neill was furious and wanted to protect her. Katie Sagal stepped in too. These were the people who showed up when everyone else did not. There is also another story that remains unresolved today. At some point during her career, Christina went somewhere with television producer Kim Manners. She blacked out. When she woke the following day, she had unexplained marks on her body and no memory of what had happened. She never told anyone until her memoir. Manners died in 2009. Whatever happened that night is now buried between missing memory, physical evidence, and a feeling she has never been able to fully name or shake. The stalking was another chapter most people know nothing about. One stalker broke into her home, went through her things, and put on her clothes before being arrested. Another man kept appearing outside the studio while Married with Children was filming. A third man was simultaneously stalking Christina, Madonna, and Mariah Carey and faced felony charges across multiple states. But the most chilling moment came in 2012, when Christina announced her engagement to Dutch musician Martin LeBlanc. An anonymous Twitter account began sending her fiancé death threats. One said he would be killed for taking Christina away. Another threatened to blow his head off. The LAPD obtained a warrant from Twitter to identify the account, but before charges could be filed, it vanished. The case never led to a public arrest. Then in April 2008, at 36 years old, Christina was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. When she tested positive for the BRCA1 gene mutation, which dramatically raises the lifetime risk of breast and ovarian cancer, she made a fast and brave decision. She chose to remove both breasts even though only one had cancer. Before surgery, she arranged a private photo shoot because she wanted to remember her own body. Then she went through with it and told no one on set for 5 full weeks. When the news broke publicly, she went on television and made jokes. She smiled through the entire interview. She later admitted every single thing she said that day was a performance. Behind the smile was a complete emotional collapse. She has described how shattered she truly felt, how strange it was to live inside a body that no longer matched what she once knew, and how much she hated being expected to perform strength for the world while she was falling apart inside. Hollywood, meanwhile, kept moving at its usual pace. When she was offered a role in Anchorman, the studio lowballed her so badly she initially turned it down. Will Ferrell and director Adam McKay actually offered portions of their own paychecks just to bring her into the film. She took the role, and the movie made over $90 million worldwide. Years later, she discovered a production had quietly spent $30,000 digitally altering her face to look younger without ever telling her. She found out only after the fact. At 15, she was too young. At 19, she was just right. At 44, she was being quietly erased. By 50, she was done. And that brings us to what is happening right now. And it is the hardest part to watch. Early in 2019, while filming Dead to Me for Netflix, Christina fell on set during a scene. Nobody knew what it meant. But inside her body, something had already started. The numbness began in her toes. Just a little at first. Then it spread from her toes to her ankles, then to her knees. The pain became brutal. And the strangest, cruelest part was that the numbness itself hurt. In August 2021, Christina Applegate was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She was 49 years old. She later revealed she had 30 lesions on her brain. The largest sits behind her right eye and causes her constant daily pain. Since the diagnosis, she has been hospitalized more than 30 times in 3 years. Some days, she cannot open a bottle. Some days, she cannot pick up her own phone. At one point, even the television remote became too heavy to hold. She uses diapers now. She scoots down the stairs on her hands. The world she once moved through freely has narrowed into a bed, a hallway, and a constant negotiation with a body that keeps saying no. When someone asked what a good day looks like, her answer was heartbreakingly honest. She said, "She is never good. She is just less bad." She has also admitted she thinks about death every single day since the diagnosis. She bought herself a burial plot and 2 more beside it. She chose the location because she said it was really pretty. She never said who the other 2 plots were for. But the choice itself says everything. Her daughter Sadie, now a teenager, has also been dealing with serious health challenges of her own. Christina has spoken about the particular pain of wanting to walk down the hallway to say goodnight to your child and not being able to because your legs simply will not carry you there that day. That kind of pain, she has said, is different from everything else. It is the pain of being trapped inside a body that keeps taking things away from you, one piece at a time. And yet, every single morning, she still drives Sadie to school. And every single morning, she blasts the same song through the car speakers as loud as it will go. Even now, there is still a little spark left. Still a little fight. Still a little rhythm. But the larger truth is impossible to look away from. Christina Applegate has carried childhood trauma, industry abuse, physical violence, illness, fear, and loss all at once, for decades, mostly in silence. And now the silence is finally over. The real story is out. And it is so much darker and so much more human than anyone ever imagined.